Welcome to the tabletop simulator version of Knee-Deep in Hexes. Knee-Deep in Hexes is a 1 versus 1 skirmisher-strategy board game. Aim of the game is to destroy either the enemy's HQ or to fill up the scrapyard. Once the scrapyard is full, the total number of health points of your vehicles and structures in the scrapyard must be lower than that of the opponent's vehicles and structures there. Start the game by choosing one out of two factions, blue or orange. Each faction comes with a supply of 3 types of vehicles, ACVs, tanks and paloozas, and 3 types of structures, extractors, factories and turrets. Find all specs like cost, movement, combat points and health points on the info sheet on the side of the table. The armies are led into battle by your companions. Each faction comes with 4 of them: General, Tech, Commander and Trickster. Each companion has their own unique special ability, provides a basic pool of resources each round, and adds health points to the HQ. Choose 2 companions out of the faction you want to play. Place the remaining onto the side of the table. Both companions come with a unique set of 8 strategy cards. One set consists of 2 action cards and 2 war cards, each double in the set. Action cards you play during your turn to bring you special strategic advantages. They are being indicated by a cogwheel in the upper left corner, usually stating the material costs that have to be paid to activate the card. War cards you play during war to get bonuses in combat. They are being indicated by a crosshair in the upper left corner, usually stating the bonus of combat points the card provides. To those 16 cards, 9 neutral cards are added. These neutral cards are the same for both players. 6 war cards and 3 action cards. For now, put the sets of your 2 companions together with your set of neutral cards and shuffle all. Your deck of 25 cards is now ready. Start the game. Each player draws 3 cards from their deck. That's the starting hand. If you are not satisfied with your first draw, you have exactly 1 chance at the beginning of the game to shuffle the 3 drawn hand cards back into the deck and draw again. After that, however, your starting hand is fixed. Define now who should start. However, the starting player starts with 1 less material and does not draw a new card from the draw pile in their first turn. A player's turn in Knee-Deep in Hexes consists of the following phases. 1. Power up. 2. Do actions. 3. Resolve the enemy war zone marker. 4. Place your own war zone marker. 5. Exhaust. Let's look at these phases one by one. Power up. First, draw a card from the draw pile. The hand card limit is 6. If you have more cards in your hand, you must discard excess cards. Second, gather resources and add them to your resource pool accordingly. Use the resource tracker to keep track. A bunch of resources is always provided by your companions. Quantity is stated on the companion's cards. Later you can build extractors. They extract resources out of resource fields adjacent to them. Exactly 1 per field. Add that number to your resource pool at the beginning of your turn. In Knee-Deep in Hexes, there are 2 resource types: material and energy. Material is mainly used to build vehicles and structures, and to play action cards from your hand. Energy is mainly used as fuel for your vehicles. You basically need energy to move. Actions. There are 6 actions available to the players. You can deploy vehicles, move vehicles, build structures, play action cards, draw a card, and recycle a card. A player has as many actions available to them as their resources and hand cards allow. They don't have to activate them in a particular order, and they can activate each of them as often as they like. Deploy. To deploy a vehicle, you must first pay material amounting to the vehicle's cost. For example, this ACV costs 1. Take the vehicle from your supply and deploy it on an empty field that is located adjacent to HQs or factories, on which there are no mountains or resources, on which there are no enemy or own vehicles or structures. Move. To move a vehicle, you must pay energy. For every energy spent, you can move one vehicle as many fields as indicated by its movement points. For example, this ACV can move up to 3 fields per movement action. You are allowed to move through your own vehicles and structures. You cannot move on or through mountains, resources, enemy vehicles or structures, or HQs. Anyhow, a movement must end up on an empty field. Also, you can't stack movement. This means a movement must end on an empty field first, before you can perform another movement with the same vehicle. You can move a vehicle multiple times, though, throughout your turn. Only limit are your energy resources. Build. You can build a structure on any empty field that has 2 or more of your vehicles with buildability directly adjacent to it. Usually, that's ACVs. Every structure costs 1 material, have 2 health points and no combat points, except for the turret, which has 2 combat points. That's easy to remember. Your fundamental structure is the extractor. They give you more resources. An extractor extracts exactly 1 resource from each resource field it is adjacent to. A resource field can only be harvested by one of your extractors at a time. Building several of your extractors on the same resource field is therefore useless. However, this does not apply to enemy extractors. They can harvest resource fields that are also harvested by you. Building a factory allows you to deploy vehicles in free fields directly adjacent to the factory. The turret is the only structure with adding combat points in battle. A very important note: the HQ is no structure. It is an entity of its own. It's just the HQ. Play action cards. You can play as many action cards from your hand during your turn as you like. After paying the cost, you execute the card based on the card text. Pretty easy. Draw card. Deep in Hexes, your hand cards play a major role. Consequently, it is important to control the deck. One way to do that is your action, draw card. Apart from the card you draw at the beginning of each turn, you may pay material and draw 1 card from the draw pile for each material so spent. You may repeat this action as often as your material resource pool allows. The hand card limit of 6 cards does not apply until the end of your turn. Then, however, you must discard any excess cards. Recycle card. Another deck control action is recycle. Here you pay 1 energy per action, and discard a card from your hand and draw a new one. Again, the hand card limit does not apply until the end of your turn. Resolving the enemy war zone marker and placing an own war zone marker. These next 2 phases are part of the combat system and have to be executed in exact this order. Generally, combat in deep in Hexes works like this. At the end of their turn, the active player declares the area of the board they want to attack, their war zone. To do this, they place their war zone marker on an intersection of 3 sectors, respectively, on an intersection of the thick, black sector lines. The 3 sectors bordered by the war zone marker become a war zone. In a war zone, the player whose units have the highest number of total combat points wins the battle. All excess combat points will be converted into damage. Damage may be assigned to units of the loser within the war zone, vehicles, structures, or the HQ, if in reach. Damage is then counted against the health points of said vehicles, structures, or the HQ. To destroy an ACV and send it to the scrapyard, you need 1 damage. It is important to note that damage must be completely assigned. There is no such thing as injured or partially damaged. For example, a player cannot simply give a Palooza only 1 point of damage, so that it only has 2 health points, instead of 3. Either you destroy something completely or not at all. In the case of the HQ, it is crucial how many health points the companions provide. In the case of the blue player in our example, the HQ has 4 health points. Orange moves 2 ACVs and a tank in front of the blue player's HQ to attack it. Orange's ACV has 1 combat point each, the tank has 2. In total they have 4. This would be enough to destroy the blue HQ. This is why they decide to put down their war zone marker. However, the combat is not triggered immediately, but only in the corresponding phase in the opponent's turn, resolving the enemy war zone marker. The opponent, the blue player, still has their entire turn to react to the orange player's attack, and they do so by bringing a Palooza and a tank into the war zone. With this action, blue has turned the tide. The war result now shifted to 4-5 for blue. Now comes the battle. All combat points of vehicles, and probably structures, like the turret, within the war zone, are being summed up. But the players additionally have the possibility to play 1 more card from their hand. In our example, blue does not want to, or maybe has none effective card to play. But orange has an ace up its sleeve. They are about to play a neutral war card. These war cards are pretty special and need some further explaining. They are valid only if the own vehicles in the war zone take certain formations, as indicated on the cards. Namely, only the vehicles, not structures. There are 3 of neutral war cards. Barrier. Here, 3 friendly vehicles must stand in a straight parallel line of hexes within the war zone. Straight parallel line means 1 outer edge of all 3 occupied hexagons must be parallel. Skirmish. Here, 3 friendly vehicles must stand in a pyramid or arrow formation within the resolve war zone. Sling. 2 friendly vehicles must stand in a parallel line with 1 field between them, either free, occupied by mountain, resource, a friendly structure or vehicle, an enemy vehicle or an enemy structure. Orange decides to play the barrier. Therefore they flip the card in their hand and lay it face down onto the board. In this case, only the card of player orange needs revealing. The tide has turned once again. Orange leads by 8-5 and has won the war. Orange may now convert 3 excess combat points into damage. The damage is enough to destroy either the blue Palooza or the blue tank. In the case of the tank, 1 damage point would be forfeited. For the blue HQ, the 3 damage is not enough. After the damage has been distributed, the war zone is considered resolved. The orange war zone marker moves back to the orange HQ. The blue player may place his war zone marker. Exhaust. After the combat phases, at the end of the active player's turn, the unspent resources are deleted, and the resource trackers are set to 0. It is not possible to save resources and transfer them to the next turn. After the exhaust, the active player's turn ends. How to win the game? As said, there are two ways. 1. Destroy the opponent's HQ. Second, once the scrapyard is full, the total number of health points of your vehicles and structures in the scrapyard must be lower than that of the opponent's vehicles and structures there. If there is a tie on the scrapyard, the player who has reached the number of destroyed health points by destroying less opposing vehicles and structures wins.